All right, everybody, welcome back. So we're gonna continue reviewing off seasons for teams today with the Carolina Hurricanes, and I actually been saying that the Hurricanes had one of the much better off seasons than other teams, and I definitely do want to agree with that because this is the team that brought in some advanced upgrades on their blue line and some advanced upgrades on their forward core while keeping pretty much the same team together from last year, which is a great idea. The first signings, we'll look at the forward core first. They signed Michael Bunting to a 3-year, $4.5 million contract. I like the Bunting deal a lot. Can be a physical player. Also can score some pretty solid offensive points. Can be a good secondary scorer on the Carolina Hurricanes, most likely. And I've liked Michael Bunting for a long time, so it's definitely a really good ad. As well as that, too, I'm also not sure why I'm wearing the Kings hat. They re-signed Jordan Staal to a 4-year, $2.9 million contract. I like the Staal re-signing. You keep your captain for the next 4 years on pretty decent term, if I'm being honest. And then they also signed Jesper Fast to a 2-year, $2.4 million contract, which I thought was also very solid because Fast can be a good middle six or bottom six type forward for the Hurricanes. So yeah, basically, as I said, they keep that generally same forward core together that they had pretty much last year, which I think is a great idea. And it also, with the guys that they lost, it gives them room for guys like Seth Jarvis and Jack Drury to get more spots in the lineup. I know Jarvis is already established, but a guy like Jack Drury, who we'll get into a little bit later, giving him some space in the lineup is definitely a good thing. They also made some moves on the blue line as well, where they signed Dmitry Orlov to a 2-year, $7.75 million extension. I like the Orlov contract a lot because Orlov obviously was probably the number one defenseman in this year's free agency class, and the Hurricanes locked him up for pretty decent money. And if it doesn't work out, he's on a short-term deal, and they can just move him at the deadline. So overall, I think it's a great signing there, acquiring Dmitry Orlov. They also re-signed their two goaltenders in Frederik Andersen, to a 2-year, $3.4 million deal. I like Anderson. It's probably going to be as long as he's going to play in the NHL. And then same with Antti Ranta's deal as well, which is a 1-year, $1.5 million contract. Both those goalies played solid in a three-way tandem with Kochetkov. So I'd imagine that this is probably Antti Ranta's last year in the NHL, and then Kochetkov will come in and take that backup role with Anderson. That was what I would imagine happens, but knowing the Hurricanes, these guys could get hurt, and then they're in that situation where they need to bring up Kochetkov, and they'll be in a good spot. So that's always happened. That's happened the past 2 years, I think, where their goalies have just gotten hurt during the season or during the playoffs, and they brought in Kochetkov, and they've been all right. So definitely not worried about that there for Carolina. I do want to look at next year, though, and I do want to look at some other situations they have. Some players they have expiring next year that are notable. Sebastian Aho is one of them, as well as that too, Teuvo Teravainen, and as well as that too, Jordan Martinook, who will all want pay raises. I would imagine Aho gets another 8-year contract. It's crazy to think that it's been 5 years since that offer sheet. Absolutely insane. But Aho, I think he could get good money on the market, but I think he would want to stay with Carolina. And there were even rumors that they would sign him very soon. So, of course, when that signing happens, we'll make a separate video covering that on this channel. But Aho I've always liked as a really solid, offensive and defensive forward there as well. And the thing is, too, I mentioned this multiple times with the Hurricanes. They play as a team. They don't have one guy that's flying ahead of everybody else. But if there was that one guy, it would be Aho. So they want to get Aho locked up. Teuvo Teravainen as well, another solid top six forward. They missed him in the playoffs, but, he came back and played solid. Jordan Martinook there, too, a solid bottom six forward, or middle six forward, who actually had a pretty good year, and he will want some money next season. But as well as that, too, there's also some other questions regarding Carolina in regards to potential trades that could happen. Pesce is the one that's being talked about, and as well as that, too, Brady Shea. But I've seen more interest in Pesce. There are going to be teams that would reach out for him because he's a very solid defensive-type defenseman. I've seen Buffalo inquire, and I've seen Edmonton inquire. So I would imagine those talks pick up again, which I think will happen. I'm not sure if he gets traded, though. I doubt it. I can't see a world where he gets traded. I imagine he stays with the Hurricanes. They figure out an extension. Brady Shea as well is another question. I think he stays with the Canes. He's getting up there in age, too. But I think Shea would stay with Carolina. And then Jack Drury is the final player that I have questions for. Drury is the one with me that, with the guys they lost, he comes into the lineup probably playing a third or fourth line role, which I think is probably the smartest place to go with a guy like Jack Drury. I always thought Drury was a solid young player, and I've always actually said in videos, like, I wouldn't mind having him on my Flyers or Coyotes. And with Drury, that's why I think he is possible he could get traded, but I think he has a spot there for him if he works hard enough for it on that bottom six. But he has said that he doesn't want to play in Carolina, which I understand. So come to Philadelphia, he's right here. But anyways, regardless, I still think the Canes are in a better spot, but there are some questions lacking. I mean, people were saying, oh, they lost Pacioretty and this and that, and with Pacioretty in the playoffs. They did just well without Pacioretty the entire season. There's no reason why you should be blaming their loss in the playoffs for them not having Pacioretty. If they had Pacioretty, yes, they'd be probably better, but there's no reason to blame that for the reason why they lost in the playoffs. No reason whatsoever. And losing him is not a loss either. They traded for him, which looked like a great deal, and then they got hurt, which is just like the Ryan Ellis trade. But, with Pacioretty, it's not a big issue, but you do want to find someone who is a scorer. Like they still don't have that prominent scorer on their team. Now maybe that's going to be Svechnikov. Maybe that's the guy they missed this past year. Maybe that would be someone like Drury. I highly doubt it, but they do have options, of course. And even though like there are some questions like are they going to get over that hump of winning an Eastern Conference round, I think they will. I think they will eventually. I mean, I just can't see this team being a team that doesn't win a Stanley Cup. I got to be honest. However, I do see the factors of it. They are a team that plays differently than other players in the league. They don't have that one-star forward, which could be that issue. It could be that issue. I'm not saying Aho isn't an elite forward. He's an elite forward, but he's not a star franchise forward. You look at previous years, teams that have brought teams to the Cup Finals, McKinnon, Tkachuk, Ovechkin, just players that, come to mind, Kucherov. Those are elite players. And maybe Carolina is lacking that, but then, of course, you look at Vegas. And Vegas, probably their only elite player was Jack Eichel, and he didn't have the best playoff year. There were players that had better playoff seasons without him. But overall, that is something you got to factor in. But I think Carolina will be fine if they can, have another amazing year, get better players at the deadline. I think they'll be better off. But anyways, that does it for me. Thank you all for watching. For now, I have a few other videos planned for this weekend, but nothing too big. But anyways, thank you all for watching. And I will see you guys in the next video. Adios.